There are moments in life that split your existence into before and after. Before the phone call, after the funeral, before you knew what real pain felt like, after you learned that grief has no bottom. My name is Karen Matthews. I'm 48 years old. I've been an ICU nurse for 23 years. I've saved hundreds of lives. I've held dying hands. I've made split-second decisions that meant life or death. But tonight, I'm facing a decision I never imagined. Because the man in room 408, unconscious, broken, on life support after a devastating car accident, is the person who killed my 16-year-old daughter 10 years ago. He doesn't know I'm his nurse. He doesn't know whose hands are keeping him alive. And I'm standing here holding his medication syringe, realizing I could end him with one simple mistake. No one would ever know. His name is Michael Drake. He's 42 years old, critical condition, traumatic brain injury, 50-50 chance of survival, with perfect care. With imperfect care, those odds drop significantly. This is the story of the longest night of my life, the night I had to choose between being a nurse and being a mother seeking justice. Let me take you back to where it all began, to the night my daughter died. There are moments in life that split your existence into before and after. Before the phone call, after the funeral, before you knew what real pain felt like, after you learned that grief has no bottom. My name is Karen Matthews. I'm 48 years old. I've been an ICU nurse for 23 years. I've saved hundreds of lives. I've held dying hands. I've made split-second decisions that meant life or death. But tonight, I'm facing a decision I never imagined. Because the man in room 408, unconscious, broken, on life support after a devastating car accident, is the person who killed my 16-year-old daughter 10 years ago. He doesn't know I'm his nurse. He doesn't know whose hands are keeping him alive. And I'm standing here, holding his medication syringe, realizing I could end him with one simple mistake. No one would ever know. His name is Michael Drake. He's 42 years old, critical condition, traumatic brain injury, 50-50 chance of survival, with perfect care. With imperfect care, those odds drop significantly. This is the story of the longest night of my life, the night I had to choose between being a nurse and being a mother seeking justice. Let me take you back to where it all began, to the night my daughter died. 10 years ago, on June 14th, the doorbell rang at 11:32 p.m. I was already awake. My daughter, Lily, was supposed to be home by 11. She'd been at her best friend's house studying for finals, just 4 blocks away, walking distance. When I opened the door and saw 2 police officers on my porch, my heart stopped. The older officers spoke first. "Mrs. Matthews, there's been an accident. Your daughter was struck by a vehicle. She's been taken to Mercy General Hospital." I don't remember the drive. I don't remember walking through the emergency room doors. I only remember the young doctor's face as he said the words that ended my life. "We did everything we could. Your daughter suffered massive head trauma. She never regained consciousness. I'm so very sorry." Lily died at 11:47 p.m. 16 years old, honor student, volleyball captain. She wanted to be a veterinarian. She wanted to save animals. She wanted to make the world better. And someone took all of that away in a split second. The detective told me what happened. A dark pickup truck had run a red light at Pine Street and Oakwood Avenue. Lily was in the crosswalk. She had the right of way. The truck hit her and never stopped, never even slowed down. Hit and run.
"We have witnesses," Detective Morrison said. "Multiple people saw it happen. They all described the same thing, a dark-colored truck, possibly an F-150, and one witness saw something distinctive. The driver had a colorful tattoo on his left arm, looked like a bird or flames. That's our best lead." A tattoo. That was all we had. I spent the next year searching for that tattoo. Everywhere I went, grocery stores, gas stations, the bank, I'd study people's arms, looking for flames, looking for a bird, looking for the person who killed my daughter and drove away like she was nothing. I never found it. The case went cold. Detective Morrison called me every few months for the first year, then every 6 months, then once a year. "We haven't forgotten," he'd always say. "We're still looking." But I knew they'd moved on. The file was sitting in some cabinet marked unsolved. Lily was just another statistic, and the person who killed her was out there somewhere, living their life, while my daughter was in the ground. Eventually, I had to accept it. I'd never get justice. I'd never get answers. I'd never get closure. I went back to work. I threw myself into nursing. Saving other people's children became my purpose. If I couldn't save Lily, at least I could save someone else's daughter, someone else's son. My marriage didn't survive. My husband Tom and I divorced 2 years after Lily died. We loved each other, but our grief was too heavy. Every time we looked at each other, we saw the daughter we'd lost. It was easier to be apart. So I was alone, just me and my job and my memories. Until tonight. My shift started at 11 p.m. Friday night in the ICU is always unpredictable. Drunk drivers, heart attacks, drug overdoses. You never know what's coming through those doors. At 8:47 p.m., while I was still in the staff room preparing for my shift, the trauma alert came through. Single car accident, male, early 40s, critical condition, traumatic brain injury, multiple fractures, ETA 7 minutes. I watched from the trauma bay as they wheeled him in. The ER team worked fast. Intubation, IV lines, chest tubes, medications, organized chaos that I'd witnessed 1,000 times. I was assigned to him once he stabilized enough for ICU admission, room 408. I reviewed his chart while the transport team got him settled. Michael Drake, 42 years old, hit a telephone pole at approximately 60 miles per hour. No other vehicles involved. Police suspected he'd fallen asleep at the wheel. The location of the accident caught my eye: Pine Street and Oakwood Avenue, the same intersection where Lily was killed. Weird coincidence, I thought. That intersection is cursed. I went into room 408 to do my initial assessment. Standard procedure: check vitals, verify all the lines and tubes are properly placed, make sure the ventilator settings are correct, document everything. That's when I saw it. His left arm was positioned at an angle, IV lines taped down, and there, clearly visible on his forearm, was a tattoo, a phoenix rising from flames, blue and orange and red, exactly as the witness had described 10 years ago. Time stopped. I stood there, frozen, staring at that tattoo. My mind was screaming, but my body wouldn't move. This was him. This was the man who killed Lily. After 10 years of searching, after hundreds of faces and thousands of arms examined, he was here, in my ICU, under my care, completely helpless. My hands started shaking. I had to grip the bed rail to steady myself. "You okay?" My colleague Jasmine poked her head in. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," I managed to say. "Just long day. I'm fine." She left, and I was alone with him. Michael Drake, the man whose face I'd imagined 1,000 times, the monster I'd fantasized about confronting, the person I'd sworn I'd make pay if I ever found him. And now, here he was, unconscious, intubated, on life support, his life literally in my hands. I finished my assessment on autopilot, vital signs recorded, medications checked, documentation completed. Then I stepped out of the room and stood in the hallway, trying to breathe. This couldn't be a coincidence. The same intersection, the same tattoo. It had to be him. But I needed to be sure. During my break, I went to the nurses' station and pulled up the full admission report. Michael Drake's emergency contact was listed as Rebecca Drake, his wife. Address, 4829 Maple Grove Lane. I opened Google Maps on my phone. That address was 6 blocks from where Lily's friend Emma used to live, 6 blocks from the route Lily would have walked home that night. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I accessed the police database using my brother-in-law's old credentials. He'd retired from the force 3 years ago, and apparently they'd never deactivated his account. I searched Michael Drake. 3 results came up. The third one made my blood run cold. Incident report, June 14, 2015. Interviewed as potential witness in hit-and-run investigation. The day Lily died. Michael Drake had been interviewed by the police as a witness. I clicked on the full report and read it with shaking hands. According to the report, Michael Drake had called the police tip line the morning after Lily was killed. He claimed he'd been driving in the area that night and had seen a dark pickup truck driving erratically, running lights, speeding. He said he'd nearly been hit by this truck himself. The police had interviewed him, checked his vehicle, a silver Honda Accord, no damage, not a match for the witness descriptions of a dark pickup truck. Detective Morrison had noted at the bottom, Drake appears to be a concerned citizen with no useful information. His timeline doesn't match the actual incident, likely saw a different vehicle earlier in the evening. They'd cleared him, moved on. But something about it felt wrong. Why would someone call the police to report seeing a truck if they had nothing to do with the crime? Unless it was a misdirection. Unless Michael Drake had been the driver and he'd called in a false tip to throw the investigation off track. Classic criminal behavior. Insert yourself into the investigation, pretend to help, find out what the police know. And it had worked. They'd cleared him completely. I sat there in the nurse's station, staring at the computer screen, my mind racing. The tattoo matched. The location matched. He'd been interviewed by police as a witness the day after Lily died. What if his Honda Accord wasn't the vehicle he'd been driving that night? What if he'd had access to a truck? What if he'd hidden it, disposed of it, and then shown the police his clean, undamaged car? I needed more proof. I logged out of the police database and checked the time. It was 2:15 a.m. I still had 5 hours left in my shift. 5 hours to decide what I was going to do. At 3 a.m., I was back in room 408 for his scheduled medication administration. Michael Drake's vitals were actually improving, blood pressure stabilizing, heart rate coming down, oxygen saturation holding steady at 94%. He was going to survive. Without intervention, this man was going to wake up, recover, and go home to his wife and daughter. Yes, his daughter. The admission paperwork listed a 16-year-old daughter named Emma as a dependent. He had a daughter the same age Lily had been when she died. He got to watch his daughter grow up. He got to see her 16th birthday. He probably taught her to drive, probably helped her study for finals, probably kissed her goodnight and told her he loved her. All the things I never got to do with Lily after that night. Because he took those moments from me. I stood at his bedside preparing his medications. Morphine for pain, propofol for sedation, antibiotics, blood pressure medication. All measured by me, all administered by me, all controlled by me. I could give him too much morphine, just double the dose. His already compromised system wouldn't handle it. Respiratory depression would set in. He'd stop breathing. The eliminator would alarm, but alarms go off all the time. By the time anyone responded, it would be too late. Critical patient coded, I'd say. We tried to resuscitate but couldn't bring him back. It happens. ICU patients die every day, even with the best care. No one would question it. No one would suspect anything. My hand hovered over the morphine syringe. This was my chance, my only chance. Justice for Lily. Justice that the legal system had failed to provide. One push of the plunger. That's all it would take. But then I remembered something. A memory I'd buried because it hurt too much to think about. Lily was 6 years old. We were at the park and she'd found an injured sparrow with a broken wing. She was crying, begging me to help it. "Mommy, we can't just leave him. We have to take him to the doctor." So we'd taken that bird to an emergency vet. The vet said the bird had a chance with proper care. He showed Lily how to make a splint, how to feed it, how to create a recovery space. 3 weeks later, we released that sparrow back into the wild. Lily watched it fly away with tears streaming down her face. We saved him, Mommy. We gave him another chance. That was Lily, someone who saved things, someone who believed in second chances, someone who chose kindness even when it was hard. And here I was, holding a syringe, contemplating murder. What would Lily think of me right now? Would my daughter, who cried over an injured bird, who volunteered at animal shelters, who wanted to be a veterinarian, would she want her mother to become a killer, even if the person I was killing had taken her life? I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. And then I made my decision. I administered the standard dose of morphine, 10 milligrams, not 20, not 30, the standard dose. Michael Drake's heart rate stabilized. His breathing remained steady. He was alive. I didn't kill him. But I wasn't done yet. At 4 a.m., I did something reckless. I left the hospital on my break and drove to Michael Drake's house. 4829 Maple Grove Lane was a modest 2-story home in a working-class neighborhood. Lights were on inside, probably his wife waiting for news about his condition. There was a silver Honda Accord in the driveway, the same car from the police report. But next to it was a white Jeep Cherokee with a bumper sticker, "Proud parent of an honor student." No pickup truck. I sat in my car across the street, watching, trying to figure out what I was even doing here. What did I expect to find? Then I noticed something. The garage door was open about 6 inches, just enough to see inside. I shouldn't have gotten out of my car. I shouldn't have walked up that driveway, but I couldn't help myself. I crouched down and peered under the garage door. Inside, covered with a blue tarp, was the outline of a large vehicle, a truck-sized vehicle. My heart started pounding. Why would you cover a vehicle with a tarp inside your own garage, unless you were hiding something? I needed to see that truck. I needed to know if it was a dark F-150. I needed to know if it had front-end damage that had been repaired. But I couldn't break into someone's garage. That was insane. Unless... I drove back to the hospital with a plan forming in my mind. A terrible plan, a desperate plan, but a plan nonetheless. When Michael Drake woke up, and he would wake up, his vitals were improving every hour, I was going to be there, and I was going to get him to tell me the truth. At 8:15 a.m., just as my shift was ending, it happened. Michael Drake's eyelids fluttered, then opened. I was at his bedside immediately. "Mr. Drake, Michael, can you hear me?" His eyes focused on me slowly. Confusion, disorientation, pain. "You're in the hospital," I said gently. "You were in a car accident. You're going to be okay. You have a breathing tube so you can't talk, but you can blink. 1 blink for yes, 2 blinks for no. Do you understand?"
He blinked once. Good. Do you remember the accident? One blink. You hit a telephone pole on Pine Street. Do you remember why? His eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. Fear? Guilt? He blinked twice. No. That's okay. Sometimes trauma affects memory. I paused, choosing my next words carefully. Michael, I need to ask you something important, and I need you to be honest with me. His eyes locked onto mine. 10 years ago, on June 14th, there was a hit-and-run accident at that same intersection. A 16-year-old girl was killed. Do you remember hearing about that? His face went pale, or as pale as someone covered in bruises can go. He didn't blink. He just stared at me. You called the police the next day, said you'd seen a dark truck driving erratically. You tried to help the investigation. Still no response. But I think you didn't just see the truck, Michael. I think you were driving it. I think you hit that girl and drove away, and then you called the police pretending to be a helpful witness to throw them off your trail. His heart rate monitor started beeping faster. 105, 110, 115. That girl's name was Lily Matthews. She was my daughter. Michael Drake's eyes went wide. Pure terror. Now he understood. He understood exactly who I was. I'm the nurse who's been keeping you alive all night. I'm the person who controls your medications, your pain relief, your sedation, your life support. The heart monitor hit 125. I could have killed you last night, very easily. No one would have known. But I didn't. Do you know why? He stared at me, unable to respond, unable to move. Because my daughter would have wanted me to be better than that. She believed in second chances. She believed in saving things. I leaned closer. But here's what's going to happen now. You're going to recover, and when you do, you're going to confess. You're going to go to the police and tell them exactly what happened 10 years ago. You're going to face the consequences of what you did. His heart area monitor was screaming now, 135 beats per minute. A nurse stuck her head in. Everything okay in here? He just woke up. Bit of anxiety. Completely normal. I'm handling it. She nodded and left. I looked back at Michael Drake. Your wife and daughter are in the waiting room. They've been here all night, terrified they were going to lose you, the way I lost my daughter. Think about that while you're making your decision. I turned to leave, then stopped at the door. Oh, and Michael, if you even think about disappearing or running when you get out of here, I promise you, I will find you, and next time, I won't choose to be merciful. 3 days later, I was at home when I got a call from Detective Morrison. Karen, he said, his voice strange, I need you to come to the station. Something's happened. My heart started racing. What's wrong? Just come to the station, please. When I arrived, Detective Morrison led me to his office. His face was unreadable. Karen, I don't even know how to tell you this, but we got a confession in Lily's case. The room spun. What? Michael Drake, the man you treated at the hospital. He called from his hospital bed this morning, said he needed to confess to a hit and run from 10 years ago. He gave us details that only the perpetrator would know. I sat down heavily. He said he'd been drinking that night. Not drunk, but impaired. He was driving his brother's truck. His brother had deployed overseas and asked Michael to keep the truck maintained. He was going too fast, ran the red light, and hit Lily before he even realized what happened. Detective Morrison's voice was tight with controlled anger. He panicked. Instead of stopping, he drove home, hid the truck in his garage. The next morning, when he saw the news and realized the girl had died, he called us with that false tip about seeing another truck to throw us off. The truck in his garage? I said quietly. It's still there? We got a warrant this morning.
The truck has been there for 10 years, covered with a tarp. He'd done an amateur repair job on the front bumper, but our forensics team found paint transfer that matches Lily's jacket. We found her DNA. It's a slam dunk case. I couldn't speak. Karen, I don't know what happened in that hospital room. Drake won't say why he suddenly decided to confess after 10 years. But whatever you said to him, it worked. We finally have justice for Lily. The trial happened 6 months later. Michael Drake pleaded guilty to vehicular manslaughter and leaving the scene of a fatal accident. The judge sentenced him to 15 years in prison. At the sentencing hearing, I was allowed to give a victim impact statement. I stood at the podium and looked at Michael Drake, no longer swollen and bruised, just a middle-aged man in an orange jumpsuit who looked like he'd aged 20 years in 6 months. 10 years ago, you took my daughter from me, I began. You took her future. You took her dreams. You took every moment I was supposed to have with her, her graduation, her wedding, her children. But what you also took was my ability to trust the world, my ability to believe in justice, my ability to move forward. I paused. For 10 years, I lived with rage, with grief that had no bottom, with questions that had no answers. I became someone I didn't recognize, someone consumed by the need for revenge. And then, by some twist of fate, you ended up in my ICU, completely helpless, completely at my mercy. And I had the power to make you pay in the most final way possible. Michael Drake was crying now. But I didn't, because my daughter taught me something about mercy, about second chances, about being better than the worst thing that ever happened to you. I hope you spend every day of the next 15 years thinking about Lily, about the girl you killed, about the life you took, about the mother you destroyed. And I hope when you get out, if you get out, you spend the rest of your life trying to be worthy of the mercy I showed you that night. I sat down. The judge banged his gavel. Michael Drake was led away. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt something other than grief. I felt peace. I am sitting in a coffee shop when I see the news on my phone. Michael Drake has been released early for good behavior. He served 8 years of his 15-year sentence. The article includes a quote from him. I can never undo what I did. I can never bring Lily Matthews back, but I can dedicate the rest of my life to making sure her death wasn't meaningless. I'm working with Mothers Against Drunk Driving now. I speak at high schools about the consequences of driving impaired. It won't bring her back, but maybe I can save someone else's daughter. I should be angry. 8 years isn't enough. It will never be enough. But I'm not angry. I'm satisfied. Because the Michael Drake who went to prison isn't the same Michael Drake who came out. Prison changed him. Guilt changed him. My daughter's death changed him. He's spending his life trying to prevent other families from experiencing what we went through. It's not the justice I imagined. It's not the revenge I once craved. But maybe it's better. Last week, I received a letter. It was from Michael Drake's daughter, Emma. She's 26 now. Dear Mrs. Matthews, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to care. But I needed to write it anyway. I was 16 when my father confessed to killing your daughter, the same age Lily was when she died. I've spent the last 8 years trying to process that, the fact that my father took someone's life, someone's daughter, your daughter. I can't imagine what you went through. I can't imagine the strength it took to not let revenge consume you. My father told me what happened in that hospital room, how you could have killed him, how you chose not to. how you gave him the chance to confess and face what he'd done. You saved my father's life that night, not just physically, but spiritually. You gave him the opportunity to become someone better than the person he was. I know this doesn't change anything. I know my father can never give you back what he took, but I wanted you to know that your mercy didn't go to waste. My father is a different person now. He's dedicated his life to making sure no one else makes the mistake he did. He speaks to thousands of students every year. He's saved lives through his advocacy work. None of that brings Lily back, but maybe it means something. I'm so sorry for what my father did to you and your family. I carry that guilt with me every day, even though I know it's not mine to carry. Thank you for choosing mercy over revenge. Thank you for being stronger than anyone should ever have to be. Emma. I read that letter 3 times. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I wrote back. Dear Emma, thank you for your letter. It took courage to reach out to me. You're right. What your father did can never be undone. Lily is gone, and nothing will bring her back. But you shouldn't carry guilt for your father's actions. You were a child. You're not responsible for what he did. I'm glad he's trying to make amends. I'm glad he's working to prevent other tragedies. It doesn't erase what happened, but it gives his confession meaning. Your father and I will never be friends. We'll never have a relationship. But I want you to know, I don't blame you. I never did. Live your life, Emma. Don't let your father's mistakes define you. Be the person Lily would have become if she'd had the chance. Karen Matthews. Tonight I'm having dinner with my ex-husband, Tom. We're not getting back together. Too much time has passed. We're different people now. But we're healing. Together, finally. I'm proud of you, Tom says as we're finishing our meal, for how you handled everything with Michael Drake, for choosing mercy. Lily would be proud too. I didn't do it for pride, I say. I did it because killing him wouldn't have brought her back, and it would have made me someone Lily wouldn't recognize. Tom nods. Do you ever think about that night? About what you could have done? Every day, I admit. Some days I wonder if I made the right choice, if mercy was weakness, if I should have made him pay in a more permanent way. But most days I'm grateful I didn't, because I'm still me. I'm still the person Lily knew, the person she loved, and that matters more than revenge ever could.